Hi, I'm Angus McDonald from Deep River, Connecticut. You are listening to ICRV Radio, the stream feeding the River Valley.
Welcome to ICRV Radio, where we believe in conversation and the art of storytelling. And one of the things that we like to celebrate are the amazing stories behind the wonderful objects of art and jewelry that are here in our area in the Lower Connecticut River Valley. And it's time for If This Brooch Could Talk with our host, Gay Sherman Wentz.
Thanks, Ivy. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's still morning, isn't it?
It is.
If I wasn't awake, I would be, after looking at all the jewelry on the table. I wish your listeners could see it all, but I think we're posting some pictures for everybody, right?
Yes, we do. And in fact, our listeners, too, can participate in this interactive program. If you would like to tweet us questions or send us questions on Facebook or send us a question at info@icrvradio.com, we will be more than happy to share them with our guests. And speaking of guests,
yeah, we have some some experts in the room, the Queens of Bling. We have Tova Vegan from Tova's Vintage Shop of Old Saybrook and her mom, Jeannie, which we're really happy to have both of them here today. Thanks, guys, for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome. And we also have with us Lisa Feynman as well.
Oh, enjoying the ride.
She is a collector, too.
Oh.
Yeah, and she brought some pieces for me to look at, so we're going to praise those at some point on air. And Tova and her mom, oh my God, they have trays and cigar boxes full.
You said, bring a couple things, and I went through the jewelry case and said, okay, well,
they
a lot of things.
They pared it down to what, a couple hundred pieces we got here? Well, today we're talking about collecting, and as I've said before on the show, we are in the halo effect of the costume jewelry capital of the world, just an hour outside of Providence, Rhode Island. And what Tova and her mom, Jeannie, have here is obvious evidence that we are in the treasure trove. And so we're going to be talking about collecting and finding these treasures. And, of course, Tova's shop in Old Saybrook is certainly one place to find them. I'm always going over there looking in the cases. And they also have this awesome little bowls and suitcases you can just run your fingers through looking for baubles and little treasures. I was just over there a couple weeks ago, actually.
Tova, where is the shop?
It's in Old Saybrook on Route 1, near the high school, kind of near Dairy Queen. We've been in there in business 16 years and been in that spot maybe 14 years, so it's been a long time.
And Lisa, have you spent some time there?
Never.
We spent time in her.
No, I've been there. And actually, we would bring our kids for trick-or-treating, the costumes they could come up with, because that's really where it's at, to get really some great characters and have them use their imaginations. So, yeah, we've been. Oh, yes.
Fun stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and Tova actually has recently been transforming herself and her shop. It used to be a place where you could go for Halloween costumes, and she's kind of upgraded from that at this point.
We're streamlining a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, she's basically put all her best pieces forward, and she's online on Etsy also.
We've been selling online for 6 years or something, and it does really well. It's another full-time job, so you have to find the time to be able to do it and to be open at the same time. So we're kind of trying to find the balance of doing those two things, which means we're kind of eliminating certain kinds of things and then really focusing on what we sell well online and here, and being able to do both.
Is the jewelry part of it?
The jewelry is definitely part of it. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. The focus is clothing, mainly dresses, fancy stuff, cotton summer stuff, and jewelry. So the bulk of it is late 1800s through the 70s, which is it's just fun. Things come in every day, and you never know what it's going to be.
And she has an almost 2-year-old daughter, who I am so envious of. Who's just
there every day.
She's got the best dress-up closet in the world. Yeah. I'm like, I want to be Tova's daughter.
Did you say Providence, Rhode Island is the capital of...
The costume jewelry capital of the world.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, just started a conversation with an old Italian gentleman who literally has the history of the costume jewelry capital of the world in his house.
Oh.
And he's looking for a home for a museum.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I'm hoping to bring them to Connecticut. He hasn't had much luck, and I can't believe
that's
Providence hasn't embraced this guy and found him a place for this museum. And I was just talking to my dad about it the other day. He's like, let's bring him to Connecticut. I'll find him a place.
Right.
Wow.
Because, I mean, he has like some of the old die stamp machines and a lot of cool stuff.
Interesting.
From the various companies, Trifari, Coro, all these companies we're going to be talking about today. And, pieces that didn't have sewn set in them, the actual beginning of a costume jewelry piece. And
Wow.
he collected it every time one of the companies shut down. He grabbed a piece of their history, and it's amazing.
Oh.
So I'm going to have him on the show at some point too. So, but anyway, we've got all these amazing pieces before us, and we're talking about collecting. Now, we've talked, Tova and Jeannie and I, we were talking in their shop a couple of weeks ago. We're all big fans of Elsa Schiaparelli, who, for our listeners, if you don't know, she was sort of the inventor of shocking pink. She was outlandish, where Coco Chanel was very traditional, and the two of them were rivals, Coco and Elsa. Elsa, I believed, one of the stories about Elsa, she showed up at this very highbrow French ball wrapped in a flag.
Oh.
And she has, her clothing is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Vintage fashion wise, she's
she's huge.
Top of the line.
I mean, everybody knows Coco Chanel, but not as many people know about Schiaparelli. And of course, Coco turned her nose up at Elsa because she was a little over the top. But
they did agree on one thing, and that was that costume jewelry shouldn't be spoken of as fake anything.
Yes.
That it was an art form in its own right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even though it didn't have precious metals, it had new end metals and pieces that could imitate diamonds and gold, different metals. But the workmanship was the same as fine jewelry.
Yeah, so a lot of these
they could be more
divined by fine jewelers.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm always talking about how the costume jewelry, the heyday of costume jewelry from the the 20s through the 60s, basically, that's never going to happen again because those pieces were designed by fine jewelry trained craftsmen who patented between Adolphe Katz of Coro and Alfred Philippe of Trifari, the two of them patented over 2,000 designs.
Wow.
And that's never going to happen again. I mean, it's all stamped out in China now, unfortunately. So, these babies are truly works of art, as you said.
How can you tell when, what is it, a Schiaparelli?
Schiaparelli.
How do you know that that's one of her pieces?
Well, a lot of it's signed.
Yeah, most of them are signed. Our first show, our tip was...
Are you letting her handle that jewelry?
I'm sitting right next to her.
Oh, my goodness.
You noticed I didn't touch any on my own.
Hey, I want to acknowledge, I'm going to let the conversation continue. I want to acknowledge that the studios are open, our 108 Main Street studios here in Ivoryton, and they're built to do what we do every day, which is invite and support community introductions and celebrations. So community's welcome to come in as we have our first kind of in-studio guests who heard about the program and said, I want to see it live. And you're more than welcome to do it.
Pull up a chair.
Yeah, and so Linda, welcome to ICRV Radio. So, yes, I'm sorry I cut you off. That was very rude of me, but I
appreciate your watching my jewelry. When she asked about how do you know it's Schiaparelli, in this case, there is a mark. But sometimes it might be on an earring and not on the brooch or the matching bracelet.
So when they're
in
separated,
that case, they probably had a hang tag like this. This is a Schiaparelli one. But a line of jewelry like this that was Juliana is the way it's called now. They had hang tags and no marks, so none of these are marked. And when people go to say verify that it's a Juliana, it's very difficult to do. Except they had a signature 5-link back. And that's
for the bracelets.
Turn it over, and in that case you can. But
and lots of books where you can find
verify
really specific things and say, oh, there.
Yeah,
or in my case, you sell something and then find it later and say, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah, and there actually is a website now for Juliana. If you have Juliana pieces, you can send in a picture and they'll verify it for you. Right. But a lot of the Juliana, besides the rings on the back, there's also the pooling of the metals on the back of the
puddling. They call
puddling, on the back of the stones. The settings is another
and the
mark
way they
of
put the
Juliana.
stones together. You can kind of once you get an eye for it, you can spot it.
Hey, Jean, the program is called "If This Brooch Could Talk," and it's actually directional, not necessarily literal. But the intent is actually to use an artifact, to use an article, and to be able to use it as a way of transporting us in time to when it might have been made, when it might have been purchased, who might have purchased it, how much it might have cost, and et cetera. Can you take one of those pieces and see if that could talk, what would it be saying? What kind of story would it tell us?
Well, this has a big story because this is how it started for Tova and I. Oh. This was purchased by my dad for my mother, 1950. In Fergus Falls, Minnesota. And it was a stunning thing for a woman to put this on in that Scandinavian Lutheran community. But she did. And it's a Barclay piece. And I remember her wearing it a lot until she got older and didn't want it and passed it on to me. I brought it home to Tova and we said, here we go. And this was the beginning of us looking for beautiful, high-end rhinestone jewelry. So this is where the collection started with my dad, Kelmer Larson.
And truly, I do not mean to be rude, but can you tell us, how much that might have gone for in
1950, maybe $29. Wow. Now maybe $250, $300.
How
minimum.
How cool is that?
I have chills. I'm not kidding you.
If you have the matching earrings and the bracelet, you're talking $500.
Wow.
And the other thing I think is really important about really good high-end costume jewelry is the back. When you look at the back and it's beautifully done and marked and it's soft to handle, that's a good sign of excellent
and that
costume
the metal
jewelry.
Never tarnishes. Costume jewelry today seems like it looks really bad in a couple seasons, because all the metal kind of wears away. I think with really good costume jewelry, it stays the way that it always was. These things are like they were made yesterday. They're just...
Tova, you got to be careful now, because you're talking to somebody that might have worked at QVC and somebody that might have worked at HSN. So, be careful now.
Right. Well, the good companies today, like Chanel, Dior, the high-end people today, they actually still do a heavy gold plating. Yeah. But most costume jewelry, below that.
It's kind of fashion.
It's more fashion jewelry than costume.
Yeah. And they're putting on micro mils of gold plating, whereas in the past it was a pretty heavy coat. And, a lot of the pieces I have from the 50s, 60s, people can't believe that they're that old.
Because they still look so new.
Yeah. And the colors are so amazingly brilliant on every piece that I see in this enormous, not one, but 2 trays, and not one, but 2 boxes of jewelry.
3.
Look at that. 3 cigar boxes
This is what you're looking for.
And the stones are just so brilliant.
Yeah, the colors of the stones they used back then were just
they look
awesome.
like they're on fire. If you can put this on and someone across the room notices it, you have the kind of piece everybody wants to have.
Yep. Exactly.
And just from a distance, you can tell the quality of something by the brilliance and the sparkle.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm looking. Where are some of those Schiaparelli pieces over there? I'm like craning my neck. Where are they?
Just to be an eyewitness.
Right now, one of them is in Lisa's pocket.
Hey. Nobody was supposed to see that.
She's a slippery little fish.
Has she ever come in there and said, "Hey, I'll trade you some monkfish for this"?
Oh my gosh. I wouldn't dare.
Okay, well, Tova just handed me a Schiaparelli piece that has these stones have been
The
called different
signature
things.
icebergs.
Yeah, they call them icebergs. They call them lava rocks. I've heard them called volcano rocks. They're actually pressed glass, and they have like a. They almost look like crumpled paper. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they have that Aurora Borealis coating that we talked about last time, that color changing coating that gives it that special bling. And the Siam red stones on these also have Aurora Borealis. You can see that coating on it that makes it shimmer.
What would you say is the story behind a piece like that? Who might have worn that?
Well, anyone who bought Schiaparelli definitely had to have been a more daring woman.
And had a little bit of money.
Yeah. They weren't cheap. I mean, they're not cheap now, and they certainly weren't cheap back then. What do you say? These pieces probably were in the $50 to $75 range.
Originally?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Back in the
day. I mean, these pieces go
49.
for, I mean, you pretty much can't get a Schiaparelli brooch below $250 these days.
all by itself without
without
They're
anything.
very rare and hard to find.
Is there a difference between a brooch and a pin?
No.
No, although some would argue that a pin is tiny, whereas a brooch has to be
Substantial.
a brooch.
Okay. Yeah.
It's something, more, something that's, an inch or smaller. Most people will call a pin, like the little tiny flag pins that people wear during election time, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Whereas a brooch, is more of a statement making piece.
Okay.
And Schiaparelli also didn't make jewelry for that long.
No.
The 30s were the beginning, and those are all in museums. You just can't find them. And in the 40s, you can start to find things. But in the 50s was really kind of this heyday of Schiaparelli. And unlike Trifari and Coro, it wasn't mass produced over a period of, decades. So it's harder to find.
And how can you tell which decade that's from? By
the color, the Aurora Borealis wasn't really invented until the 55.
Yeah, we covered that in the last show. If a piece has
if you were listening.
Hey, it's only so many hours in a day. This one I shouldn't have missed, though.
It comes down to color combinations and rhinestones, I think, because, in the
design.
50s were one set of colors and 60s were another, and you just kind of get to figure it out.
Kind of like clothing, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like the 50s, you saw a lot of jade colors. The Oriental Asian motif was very much in style because we were getting a lot of imports from that part of the world. Pinks,
yellows,
jet black.
A lot of this kind of stuff. And 60s really kind of got a little bit more yellow and bronze and...
Yeah, in the 60s, you got the plastics. They got really into plastics again.
Bakelite.
And they got really funky. Bakelite actually goes back to the Art Deco period, probably more popular in the 40s than anything.
Okay.
Because of the war, plastics was a more readily available material. All the metal was going to build airplanes and tanks. So you'll find in the 40s, for example, that those pieces were made of sterling or plastic for the most part, or celluloid, which was another type of plastic that was very flammable.
That's why Trifari made the Jelly Belly. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Trifari made all these pieces in sterling with clear lucite bellies. They called them jelly bellies because they look like jelly beans almost. So different things like that are indicative of different decades. 70s got really slinky and sexy, and you had like the snake chain, and there are certain things that tipped you off. And other things are construction, whereas, Victorian period, you're just going to see the simple little C clasp on the back. They didn't have a locking clasp on the back of a brooch. And then... today we have like those little lobster clasps on necklaces. Before that, it was the little spring ring. In the Art Deco period, it was a spring ring, but it had a thumb catch. It didn't have the little thing sticking out of the ring. And so there are all these different indicators of decades and styles. And
How would you describe the woman in, say, the 60s and the 70s that was wearing some of this jewelry?
Most
Stories behind it.
I would say a lot of the women in the 60s were, most women who were wearing the jewelry were either they're wearing it to cocktail parties and they were trying to make a statement with the big cocktail rings. But women in the workplace were wearing a lot of this jewelry. So a lot of the jewelry either got really cool and funky for young people going out, or in the workplace, you actually saw a lot of figurals, a lot of interesting little pieces that were a little more understated too, to wear during the workday. And then at night, going out, the style totally changed. But everyone was trying to make a statement with their jewelry.
In the 50s, women were so put together. I mean, everything went with everything else, and
it was very
matchy,
matchy.
And the pin and the earrings and the shoes matched. The purse, and it was just another way of bringing it all together.
Was it really important that they all match, or did they sometimes
I think in the
do
50s it was just kind of a funny thing where things were, it was so matchy, which is so funny to see today.
Yeah, well, the jewelry, they sold the
set.
The
full
set. Yeah, you got the whole set. You got the necklace, the matching bracelet.
Right, so you would do it all together. Yeah. Where today we try to be a little more dynamic and mix and match things. In the 50s, no, you did not do that. It was proper. And
the question is, did you buy the jewelry first and then the outfit, or the outfit and then the jewelry?
I don't know.
Depended upon the woman.
One of the other curious things, I think, when we started the business 16 years ago was that people would come in and they'd say, oh, it is stunning, it's beautiful, but I would never be able to wear it anywhere. They were kind of the thought that this goes with a prom gown or a dinner cocktail dress. And we started changing, not just us, but, other people started saying, put this with a white shirt and a pair of jeans, and it's fantastic. And so we would wear things like that to the shop with just a white shirt and a pair of slacks. And all of a sudden, it went very well.
Yeah,
and
press
then
it down a little, and it's just more fun.
You can wear it all the time. We wear it every day.
So there are a lot of instances. Let's take vinyl, for instance, where an entire generation that never had it is getting into it, right? And led by great artists like Cosmo Sunshine, who was on our air just this past Sunday. Is that happening in your segment?
I think in this business, there will always be people who recognize something that's more interesting than what you can just buy mainstream, or a higher quality, or just one of a kind. I think companies like J. Crew are great because they push new rhinestone jewelry lines every season, and they're really vintage inspired. I mean, it's like they're almost taken from, but with a modern edge, and that's cool too because it keeps people interested.
It kind of brings people back to this business because now they've seen it updated in a sense,
and you can mix them all too. So it's fun. I wear J. Crew pieces with older pieces, and I think it's fun.
Nothing against them, but kind of cool that there's a story attached to.
Yes, very much so.
When people come into our shop, whether it's clothing or jewelry, that's what they want to know. Where did it come from? Who might have worn it? And if we can say this lady brought it in, she wore it to a dance in a Rhode Island Newport party. Yeah. And her young...
We get a lot of stories.
They want to know the story. And when they go out and wear it and people say, oh, that's lovely, they say, do you want to hear the story?
Gene, give me a story from one of those trays in front of you. Give me a story.
Oh, God. Do we have anything from...
We've sold most of those storied pieces.
Can I ask a question in the meantime?
Of course.
So I know, like today, I know that there's a lot of simulated stones, and a lot of times people sell jewelry with the idea that you could pass this off as a real diamond.
Yeah.
I just wonder if, like back in the day when costume jewelry, was it ever
mistaken?
Or did they try to wear it mistakenly?
Not in the 50s.
Okay.
Nobody was pretending that this was real.
This wasn't
heirloom.
But
really when it started in the late 1700s, it was designed for people who had a lot of money, who had the real thing, and were going to travel, or you're in a carriage. Right. People are going to loot you. You need to reproduce them in a fake, but a really good fake. So they became
The good
these
ones stayed in the
jewelers,
safe.
yeah, the jewelers really started to, figure out how to make really good fakes and really good diamond fakes. And they figured out how to cut glass, really hard glass, rhinestones from the Rhine River. And then it started to become more mainstream, and the divide between really rich people and really poor people
changed.
And people in the 1800s were like, wow, I can wear this kind of thing. And you could be more creative with it because it wasn't real.
Yeah.
And it was more fun and more interesting. So it's evolved to, start out trying to fake people out. But
yeah, and that's
this
why they
is
call
really...
that's why they called some of the stones back then diamantes. Kramer of New York had a whole line of rhinestone jewelry called the Diamond Look.
Yeah.
And now they have zircon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Same thing.
I think it's interesting. Eisenberg, who makes made these beautiful, beautiful pins back in the day, maybe the 40s, 30s,
Jeannie's
40s,
pulling
50s.
out an Eisenberg.
Yeah, there's an Eisenberg. They would color stones.
It's gorgeous.
They would color stones a little bit because no one really, I mean, some people have white diamonds, but the whiter they are, almost the faker they look. So they would add color to the glass so it looked a little bit more like
authentic.
A real diamond.
Yeah.
My favorite rhinestones are ones that are cut like an old European or like an old mine diamond.
The rose cut.
So it's not just a round, brilliant, cut that you see every day. And like these are late 1700s. And they're if you look at the facets of the stones, they're all hand cut and they're all different, and they have this really magical shine to them.
Yeah, that's something the lasers can't do.
Yeah, you can't do this today, and this is so cool.
Wait, did you say 1700s?
Yeah, late 1700s. This is like when it started. Georgian kind of.
Can I ask what the value of that would be?
Out of the ones I've been seeing lately,
$1,000,
have been over 1,000. Yeah.
Wow. You just can't find them.
Lisa,
Wait, were we even wearing makeup
You're
then?
never going to be the same.
I'm like, darn it, that's my birthstone.
Hey,
you might want to have a pair like that.
So I got a confession to make. Back in the day when I was listening to Earth, Wind and Fire and the Commodores, I was wearing old vintage tux jackets, and I would have a pin on it. Mm-hmm. I was doing it before Michael Jackson was doing it. I'm just saying. Get that straight.
Very fashion forward of you.
We can see it.
He was working it.
Are you getting men and young men coming into your store? Those pins in vogue or out of vogue or what?
I think a pin on a guy is great if he can
handle
all
it.
in the attitude.
Yeah, it is in the attitude.
The piece I brought here, our Norwegian bunad from our family.
And it is posted on Facebook, so if you go to our website, you can see it right now.
These the Norwegians in the 18th and 19th century believed that everybody, including men, wore silver pins every day. It was kind of keep the trolls away and keep evil spirit. No kidding.
Oh, those Norwegian trolls.
Yeah.
I'll get ya.
I think the trolls.
Dave has a look of like disbelief on his face over here.
No, I love this. I mean,
See, they're working because there are no trolls here.
Right. There are no trolls in this building.
But Norwegian men were wearing silver pins, and young boys and all the Norwegians were wearing silver for kind of those reasons. It then, escalated into something, these are called soya pins. They're silver and gold, and they started being worn on the national costume, and they signify special events now, like a baptism. My granddaughter Minka Lillamore wore one on her great-grandmother's christening gown for her christening and got her first soya pin. So these are Norwegian ones, and in this case, women wore three, one over their heart, one at the opening of the bodice, and one at the neckline. That was the way a good Norske wore it. And growing up in a Scandinavian Lutheran community, this was frequent for almost every occasion they could invent, whether it was a lutefisk supper or, a wedding or a baptism. They would wear their bunad, and they would wear all their soya pins. So these brooches talk.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
I had a guy come in with an gigantic Eisenberg pin on the other day. And I said, wow.
God bless him.
Impressive.
He was proud.
Yeah, he was proud. He was so proud that somebody knew what it was.
Yeah.
I do have a few male customers. Some have bought pieces from me. I'm trying to think. I have a number of guys in New York who buy cocktail rings from me, wear the big cocktail rings. And I had one guy who he collects. I think it was Eisenberg. He wears the fur clips on his leather jackets.
That's what it was. It was a fur clip.
It's like, eat your heart out, Fonzie.
Yeah.
We did have one story early on when that gentleman came into our shop over here in Essex and had a pink.
Oh, the pink diamond story?
The pink diamond
I don't know
story.
if I believe that story.
Oh,
come on,
What
tell
was
it
his
anyway.
Yeah.
You got my curiosity.
Okay, right. So this was the story. He was a Native American guy who said that did he have the ring on?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So he had this big pink
looked like
cocktail ring.
An inexpensive
it was like
cocktail.
this big. I mean, it was over 5 carats.
Huge.
And it looked like it was in a sterling or platinum setting. And I said, "Wow, what a ring!" And he said, "Yeah." Well, and then he wanted to tell me the story. And the story was that he was offered, he said it was a pink diamond found at an antique shop that was local.
But of course, they didn't know it was a pink diamond.
They did, of course not.
No, they just thought it was.
He bought it for almost nothing and had it appraised and said that it was a pink diamond. And he had an offer from the appraiser for $50,000 at the time, and he didn't sell it. and I'm thinking, and he didn't have a car and he was walking and the whole thing. And I thought
he could have started a new
I
lifestyle.
believe this story, but
But it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. That was the first year.
Wow.
But nothing since.
Well, it's so cool. You did mention your granddaughter, and there was a lovely picture that you shared earlier when you came in. And apparently she's taking on a little bit of the next generation, even if
She will come in and show you what you need to buy when you come into the store.
He points out all the best things.
It's funny to see her just copy us now. This is her new thing. She will
Stand in front
watch
of the mirror.
you, and then she will do what you do. And so she walks around and shows people things and gets them a purse, and we'll go show them the jewelry.
Does the Vanna White gesture?
She's little.
Oh, yeah,
a little bit of that.
under 2. Yeah. So she's there every day, and
3 generations
yeah,
there.
we're having a good time.
Yeah.
All ages.
That's awesome.
So one of the members of our round table here, oh wow, if we can actually say that because we do have a round table, is Lisa Feynman, who is a passion of yours? Yes.
Well, you know what? Nowhere near this level, and I'm just blown away. It's so fascinating to hear. Like, there's depth of history, and there's, Coco Chanel versus Schiaparelli. I mean, it's just mind blowing. It makes me want to re-enter all my little haunts that I like to go to and check
the search.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a hunt. It really is.
Yeah.
Did you have any that in your collection that you wanted to maybe show and get a feeling of?
I brought Gay a couple of them that are really
Right
just like, I'm sure they're nothing, but they were just cool little things to me.
You don't know how many people have said that to me. Oh, there's a bunch of junk. It's nothing. It's like, no. Okay. Well, the first piece I have here is a little Asian guy. He's got the little hat on. He's got the pole over his back with some dangling beads on either end, like he's carrying water jugs. And this is actually an Art Deco piece, probably Chinese export. It's got a little bit of enamel on it. It's probably Chinese silver, so it's not 925 sterling, but it's probably like 800 or somewhere around there. It's got some kind of neat beads with some cloisonne on it.
Do you think it's from like the 80s or 90s? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's like real recent, but maybe like 20 or so years old.
Well, it's in the style of the Art Deco, but it's got a patent number on the back.
Oh.
Which makes it curious. So
now, why would a pin have a patent?
Well, as I said, some of these older pieces, particularly between the late 30s, but more 1940s to early 60s, costume jewelry was actually patented. They patented their designs. And this one has a patent number. I'm going to show this one to Tova. It has a patent number on it. So it has the look of Art Deco, but I'm guessing that it was probably made in the 50s.
Yeah.
Is my guess, because it has the patent number on it.
Wow.
And it's missing something. Oh, no, maybe that is
Yeah,
something.
I think the chain goes over, like
Right,
it's
that.
yeah.
Oh, maybe it went through.
But that's kind of one of those little mystery
unusual.
pieces that, we go through all these revivals of period. We have Art Deco revival,
Right.
Egyptian revival. Egyptian jewelry had a huge revival in the 20s when they uncovered King Tut's tomb. Then again in the 70s when King Tut's tomb traveled the world. And actually Egyptian revival, we're starting to see some pieces come out again. So, and this one is an example of Art Deco that was then reproduced in the 50s. Still very nice quality, but it's not genuine Art Deco. It's
Right.
50s does Art Deco. But a very cool piece.
Right.
I'd say, probably in the neighborhood of anywhere from $75 to $95, something like that. I would put the value at, because it's a nicely made piece, and it's patented, which makes it cool.
Okay.
But it's, later date. The other one she brought me here is a little tiny one. It's got what I call the C clasp on the back, which tells me it's probably Victorian or earlier. And it's got this little, what do they call these? These little gondolas?
Yeah. And the top is like a ski or something. It actually...
And it's got, if I'm not mistaken, I think the little flower on the top of here is Edelweiss. Looks like
cool.
Edelweiss to me, so it was probably made in Austria.
and skiing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a what we would call a souvenir or travel pin, which became popular once people started to travel a little more for recreation. But that one definitely dates to probably the Victorian period because of the clasp and the construction. In fact, it's made out of brass. But yeah, I would say it's probably from Austria. It's not signed or anything, but the fact that it has the ski motif and it has the little Edelweiss flower on that, that's a cool little souvenir travel piece. So probably the story behind this one is that somebody in the late 1800s went on a trip to Austria, and this is what they brought back home. And they wore it, in memory of the good time they had on their trip, which is kind of cool.
Do you find in the jewelry that you collect a lot of I was going to say like charm bracelets and things of that?
Oh yeah,
that
was a huge actually travel motif, particularly in the 50s. Charm bracelets were really popular in that decade, and you'll see them. A lot of them have the shields on them from the different countries or all the different states that you visited. You'd actually have a charm that was in the shape of the state. Some of them were just sterling. Some of them were sterling with enameled over them, and they showed the state capital and maybe the state flower and the bird and that kind of thing on the state. And then there were other things like, if you went to the beach, you might get a little starfish or a scallop shell charm. I actually have a charm bracelet like that. And my charm bracelet isn't so much about my travels, but it's about my life.
Yeah.
And so every little charm on my bracelet says a little something about my life. Like I have a Shakespeare charm on my bracelet because I was an English major in college. I have a gondola on there because I went to Italy to study abroad. I have a schooner on there because I was a volunteer sailor on a tall ship in Boston.
Oh, cool.
So every little piece on my charm bracelet says something about my life.
Well, speaking of the segments in people's lives and all the traveling that goes along with that as well, this amazing array that you have here on the trays, they must have come from all over the world, probably. These various different pieces.
You've been collecting this for how long?
I'm not going to tell you how old I am. Probably
It's your
50,
prerogative.
50 years.
And I will. I must say, I will make a note here. You are so elegant and beautiful.
I know.
I can't really. It is a delight to see you and to meet you because you're so gracious
Sort
and
of
lovely.
like vintage jewelry, you know?
Yeah, she's a perfect canvas for these beautiful pieces. That's for sure.
Well put.
Well, how about me and my tuxedo jacket? What? Come on, what am I, chopped liver here? What is up with this?
Yeah, you
come on,
sitting
gang.
over
When you
here,
said
your hooded sweatshirt over here.
You had a spot for. I was like, oh, what's he going to tell us? He wears a carnation. What is he going to tell us?
He's looking for a
You
brooch.
guys got no love for
Did you have the ruffles at the neck?
Oh, cummerbund.
No,
A couple of those shirts.
no. I'm not even going to tell you what I wore to the prom, though.
White patent
Was it
leathers.
blue?
There's powder blue, yeah.
Hey, those sell well. Don't
We could have that suit now. We could sell it.
Oh,
We
yeah.
could sell it 50 times.
Oh my God.
Everybody wants a baby blue suit.
You bet. Poly.
Yeah.
Polyester.
Yeah.
Wash and wear.
You had started earlier to pick up a brooch, and I think you were going to be telling a story about it. Was it the one from that box over there, or was it one from the tray over here? I saw
Well,
you. I saw
somebody
you-
actually, this is kind of funny. Somebody just brought this in a week and a half ago. Miriam Haskell, who is probably one of the most collectible.
Yeah, Miriam
know,
Haskell.
really high end.
Yeah, she's highly collectible. A lot of people collect Miriam Haskell. She's starting to come back again. She's been kind of in the in
maybe
the wings late.
Yeah, maybe
for a
10
while.
years ago, it was like, you could hardly get a hold of a necklace for $1,000. And then it starts to wane, but it's certainly coming back. And this woman walked in with this set and some other Haskell things. And she said, these were my mom's. And it was a collection of her mother and her grandmother's stuff. And she said, I always really didn't like these. I really didn't. And I'm thinking, this is one of the prettiest Haskells I've seen
Yeah.
in a long time.
And Haskell
in
had that
amazing
beautiful turquoise
condition.
color.
And
She
she's
had
like, nah, I'm not into it. And I
But
said,
her
okay.
mother always used to say, when she said, I don't love that, she'd say, but
It's
it's,
a Miriam
Miriam
Haskell.
Haskell.
And so she
That
said,
was
I
all
know
she
that
needed
there's
to say.
something, but so that's kind of funny that, everybody has their.
And then what did you do? So she wanted to
Consign.
Yeah,
consign them.
yeah.
Okay.
So I said, well, we're going to, these fetch a good amount of money.
Wow.
I'm going to put them on Etsy.
So, yeah.
What's the range of jewelry that you have when you talk about price
Oh, God.
tag?
We have things from $10 to $350 or, it's the range. I'd say maybe a standard price is $40, $50. You're a shopper. Yeah. She's in my
Karen
shop.
has joined us in the studio as well. She's
Yeah.
intrigued by what we have and has
She
sat
comes
down
in
at the
a
table.
lot. So it's really affordable. There are just certain things that are rare and then they're a little bit higher end. Yeah.
And what is the element in all this wide array of different kinds of jewelry? Is there a time or a season for the jewelry that you are most drawn to, that you get most excited about when you uncover them?
For me, I am obsessive about antique costume jewelry. So like these really old 1700s, 1800s, 1900s. I just love how rare that is and how they were handmade and everything else. I also get kind of crazy about this big rhinestone fun stuff. My mom loves this 40s, 50s, 60s. Yeah. This Juliana, she really collects Juliana.
It's spectacular.
Dripping.
Big rhinestones.
I'm going to touch this because you were mentioning
Yeah, a
how
lot of
soft
Juliana
it is on
pieces
the
actually
back,
had
and it
the dripping
is.
beads coming off of it, and they really did.
Yeah, it moves.
Yeah.
The pieces
yeah.
in that all move.
And the colors, I mean, it's
And the
just
weight of it.
gorgeous.
You can
They're
tell
wild.
by the weight
It's
of
just
it.
totally wild.
Yeah.
And sometimes the wilder, the better. It's like, whoa, look at this
Yeah.
thing. It's crazy.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Jeannie. Another thing to look for when you're looking at pieces is to feel the weight of the piece, because that often does tell you of the quality.
Yep.
That it was a substantial piece.
We also both love finding a sterling piece with
Look at that.
costume stones in there.
Oh yeah, the nice
Because it
deco.
really is. I mean, it's a really sturdy, pretty thing with
Oh yeah,
design on the sides. I mean, that could be real.
Oh, that Juliana bracelet with the triangles. I had that one with the aqua triangles.
Oh my God, she saw that from across the room. I mean,
So this area has to be just fertile ground for collectibles because of, we have a real estate program every week on ICRV radio, and one of the things that we learned real fast is that not too many homes go on the market in Old Lyme. I mean, people people stay and homes stay in families, and so this must be a ripe area for what you guys do.
Yeah, Minka's got her eyes on all of this stuff.
right, good
Let me tell
point.
you. At 2, she's figuring Grammy's got a nice collection.
Yeah, she's going to inherit some good stuff. But
she's getting her cabinets ready.
I have people every day who say we're moving our mother out of the house she's been in for 50 years, and that's a story that happens all the time. And the people who lived in a house for 50 years saved everything.
Yeah.
Not in a hoarder sense, but in the sense that they knew what they had.
Yeah.
That there was a quality there. They remember that it was a Christmas gift in 1955 or whatever.
Yeah.
And,
I always encourage people to write those stories down for their children.
Yeah.
And for their jewelry, because a lot of people, when they see costume, you don't know how many people have told me that they threw their mother's costume jewelry away, or they trashed it, or they gave it to their toddler to play with.
Right.
And it's a Schiaparelli, and I'm like, oh God.
Step away from
the
the
idea
jewelry.
that if it's not a diamond, it might be worthless, and that's not true.
If I'd like the listeners to learn one thing, it's like, don't throw it away.
Yeah.
The stuff is actually valuable. It maybe just be base metal and glass, and
the beauty in the craftsmanship is still there, and more valuable now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm always hoping that somebody will hear this and be like, "Oh God, I was going to throw that away."
Well, we still have a little more time here. If any of you have any questions that you wish to Facebook us or also send to us at info@ICRV.radio as the clock ticks down, you can certainly send them in right now.
Hey, Gene, you mentioned the craftsmanship. I mean, the approach to the work. We in a previous episode of If This Brooch Could Talk, we kind of learned that at least with one particular line, or it could have been one particular era, that the articles were actually made not through a line of production, but by an artisan, where they were responsible for the whole piece, not just a facet of the piece. Doesn't that contribute to the value of these, in as much as there's the proud nature of the work effort going into it? Yes,
I would say so. And we were talking before, Gay and I, about a company called Vendome, and appreciating that the back of this is almost as pretty as the front, and that is a key to a really. And what you're wearing is a Vendome. Yeah.
It is spectacular.
I didn't notice.
This is an $895 necklace.
Beautiful.
I once had the bracelet too with the Aurora Borealis stones, which I think I sold that one for
I'll have what
$650.
she's having.
Oh,
But yeah, this one isn't as impressive on the back, but a lot of Vendome pieces have the beautiful filigree backings, and
a lot of stones were hand set if they were prong set.
yeah, we were Dave, when he was talking about that one person worked on one piece, that was the Napier Company, and Miriam Haskell did the same thing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, all these these are wired in here.
Yeah, every single little stone and bead on there was hand wired.
Yeah.
And one person did do that under the direction and design of Miriam Haskell.
This is the Juliana story. And I thought it would be interesting to see how the family people sketched the work.
Right.
How many stones? 12 of these. The facets, the prongs. This is the way they design jewelry. So this belonged to a certain designer in their company, and it was just family people. So,
and sometimes whole communities get involved. I know in the Providence area, I mean, my dad remembers going into people's homes and seeing women sitting at the table, hand setting these rhinestones and then pushing the prongs down. He remembers, people, because he grew up in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, so he remembers going to people's homes and seeing them assemble jewelry at home too. Some of these companies.
It's such an art, and one of the things that we really believe in here at ICRV Radio is keeping those kinds of arts alive, the next generation, and in various different ways. Next generation farmer, next generation artist, and the next generation bringing them up with this appreciation for the wonderful jewelry that you have here. It's really wonderful. How can people come to reach you if they have questions about your jewelry, if they want to come to your shop?
Oh, yeah. They stop by the shop anytime. We have new hours, so definitely look at the hours. But people come in all the time, and I can tell you if it's really worth something or not, or hold on to it or don't, or, so that's kind of fun. And people send pictures all the time.
Yeah, via the phone. They can call and say, can I
Let me
shoot
send
you
you
a picture?
email you a picture.
Yeah, I get that too. I have a lot of customers who will send me pictures of something. They're trying to figure out what it is or what decade it is.
When you are saying how a brooch is made or any of these pieces of jewelry, and you say how they're done by one particular person in their hand set, and how many of that one design would they make?
I think it depends on the company.
Yeah, it varied greatly. I mean, like Coro, for example, they were one of the biggest companies out of Providence also. And then their high-end line was Vendome. The necklace that I'm wearing is Vendome.
Okay.
So something that was made by Coro, if it was just signed Coro, that would have been more mass-produced than their higher-end line of
and maybe
Vendome.
glued rhinestones and
Instead
not
of prong set.
which there's, it's just a difference.
So with that necklace that you're wearing, do you have an idea of like how many would have been made of that style?
Well, in the 10 years that I've been looking, and I literally look every day for Vendome pieces. This is the first time I've found this necklace in 10 years.
So maybe
and I've never seen it either. So when you see stuff every day, that's, you start to value things by, I've never seen that, or I see that every day. Or,
yeah, I do that with my Christmas tree pins. I'm friends with all the Christmas tree pin gurus in the world. And anytime I get a tree that's never been in any of the books, then I'm wondering, I wonder if, any of my guru friends have seen this tree. So I'll shoot them a picture and they're like, oh my God, I've never seen that tree before. And they get all psyched.
Wow.
And that's
a very funny
That's one
thing.
of the cool things. It's like, pieces are always coming out of the woodwork, and you can go to places in our area looking for them. Some of the places I go to besides Tova's is the little senior citizen shop. In that
estuary in Old Saybrook.
Yeah, the Old Saybrook Estuary Council.
That's a good place.
The lady at Nancy, the one who wears all the funky earrings at the Cumberland Farms in Deep River, she told me about them because she always gets the designer dresses there, and she's gotten some of her fun earrings there. So I started going there looking at stuff, and once in a while I pick up a Trifari or
that's
some
a
other
hunt.
piece.
You never know, and that's what
Goodwill.
That's fun.
Trove, which is right near Tova's. I go there looking for jewelry. I actually found a really pretty crystal necklace. I think I got it for like $11 and sold it for $95.
We got time for one more question. Is there any question from the studio audience? Anybody want to chime in with a question? Yeah. Or Ib, do you have any?
I don't have any questions.
What do you shop for at Tova's?
Oh, well, I have found. I found that beautiful silk gown from, I believe it was the 1950s, an estate in Hartford, West Hartford.
Oh, the best.
The emeralds
estate.
one, that was beautiful.
Yes.
That was stunning. Some beautiful blue Austrian crystal earrings I wore to a fabulous wedding I went to in Boston. And I just love going in there. And sometimes I just like going and looking in your vintage, really vintage, like the 1800s, just because I'm fascinated with that era. And I just like poking around. It's a hunt. It's fun. It's
good for you. I love that.
Yeah.
Love
And
that.
you go to a wedding or a party, and no one else is going to be wearing that dress.
That's a big right. People buy something to go to a wedding, and they come back and say, so many people said, where did you get that? Not that they knew that it was vintage, but that it was something interesting, and they don't see it very often. So they said, God, I got a lot of compliments on it, and no one else had it. So that's good.
That's right. It's special, and it takes you back, too. Same thing with the stories. Like when I look at a dress, I'm like, who wore this? What did they do? Where did they wear it? It's all part of it.
Yeah. And the cuts are so different. They make you feel differently than a new dress does, or something, that you can buy today.
Feminine.
Yeah.
More feminine, I think.
Well, we've just loved having you here in the studio today. What a great If This Brooch Could Talk. And what do you have coming up for us next time, Gary?
Well, actually, I have the author Melinda Lewis, who is, she wrote a huge book called The Napier Company, and she's going to be joining us from California by phone next time.
Fantastic. Ladies, thanks so much.
Thank
ICRV Radio, the stream feeding the River Valley.